Shalom, shalom. Call halal Yahweh Shemiao Shai by Hashem Rakah Kwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of great Milsom who rule well. And salutations to the brethren and four corners of the earth, pushing the word and truth in its sincerity. Now I just wanted to go on, going on a quick topic. It's a simple topic, but at the same time, it's a complex one. It's one of the first topics that one of the first questions new brothers ask, when they start learning about the truth. And I noticed that, especially around our camp, we got a couple of new brothers that are starting to learn, study and things like that. And they all asked a question about the Sabbath day. So I just wanted to make a quick video and edify brothers that that may be watching the channel or that may be coming in from elsewhere and things like that, because I notice we really don't touch on the Sabbath that much like we used to. So I'm going to start at the beginning in Genesis. I'm going to start at the Genesis chapter 1 and the 15th verse. I'm sorry, Salakia, the 14th verse. And the Most High said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night." Now what you can guess is these great lights happen to be the moon and the sun and the stars. It says, "And let them be for signs and for seasons." So you have, the lights being for signs, meaning to mark prophecies, for seasons, to mark when the weather is going to change, and for days and years, meaning time. Verse 15, "And let there be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And the Most High made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, which is the sun, and the lesser light to rule the night, which is the moon. He made the stars also. And the Most High set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And the Most High saw that it was good. In the evening," and this is really the point here, because this is going to go into a further breakdown. It says, "And the evening and the morning were the fourth day." Now, the reason why this particular verse is important is because the Sabbath day is a day that starts in the evening. It starts when the sun goes down. Not, it's not Saturday, Sunday. It's not, when you wake up in the morning, it's Saturday, okay, 12 a.m., 12 a.m. that day, the Sabbath day starts. No, the Lord set it up to where, the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So really, the true day starts at evening time. When the sun goes down, that's when the day is supposed to start, So it says, "And the evening and the morning." So when the sun goes down, going into that morning the next day, that's when the day is supposed to start. Now, when you read Psalms, the 104th chapter, not only does it tell you that the moon is for, of course, to give light, in darkness, but it's also for seasons. So now you have the moon that is for a sign of seasons when when the weather is going to change, And the reason why I keep harping on the moon is because the world doesn't go by the lunar cycle or the moon cycle, The world goes by a made-up calendar that Esau created to mark time, which is totally off because the Most High already gave us markers for time. When you read Genesis, the first chapter, it tells you that it's for signs and for seasons and for days and years. So we already have a time management system. It's natural. And this is Psalms 104:19. "He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down." So he appointed the moon for seasons, man. For example, the reason why you have winter, spring, summer, and fall is because you have these four seasons marked by a moment in time by the moon. Now, some things Esau still goes by the moon and some things he doesn't. Now, for the seasons, you have the winter solstice, which is supposed to be on December 21st, which marks the beginning of winter. Then you have the spring equinox, which is on, if I'm not mistaken, March 21st, which marks the beginning of spring. You have the summer solstice, which marks June 21st, which marks the beginning of summer, and you have the autumn equinox, which marks the beginning of autumn, which is September 21st. You know, so those are the breakdowns. That's the breakdown of the months through the years based on the moon. You know. Now it says he, verse 19, it says, He appointed the moon for seasons, the sun knoweth his going down. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. Young lions roar after their prey, and seek their meat from the Most High. Now what this is saying is that basically everything has its order. You know, the moon rises, it goes down, and the sun rises and it goes down. All in order, man. The sun ariseth, verse 22, the sun ariseth, they gather themselves together. They lay them down in their dens. Man goeth forth unto his work, and to his labor until the evening. So now it's telling you that not only do we have a natural order of time, but man's biological clock is set to work in the morning and relax in the evening. You know, you work all day and you rest at night. You know, that's the way it's set. So now that you understand that there is a working order on how time is supposed to go and what a true day really is, which the day starts at evening and until the next morning. You know, now this is two scriptures that's giving you the same contrast. Now you have Ecclesiastes chapter 43. And I'm going to start at verse 6 because this is going to tell you and essentially the same thing, you know. Now this is Ecclesiastes 43 and 6. It says, He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times. So that word declaration of times there is declaration, you know, that word time really means events, you know, which are you know, things that happen that we go by to mark what year we are in or what time we are in, you know, or what time is it, or what day is it, or what year is it, or what month is it, you know. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. You know, going back to Genesis, the first chapter, what you read is for signs, you know, seasons, and declaration of times. You know, I'm sorry, declaration of months, days, and years. You know, and a sign into the world. So also, it's also for prophecies, man. Because when certain high-profile prophecies come to pass, the moon changes colors. You know, it changes size. And it also does that when it's time for seasons to change as well. That's why I mentioned the equinoxes and the solstices earlier, you know. From the moon is a sign of feasts. Now, not only is a sign for you know, for the times of the world, what day we're in, what month, but also not just the prophecies, but also for feasts, meaning your holidays, you know, or holy days, Salakia. The way it's supposed to go is our holy days go by the moon cycle as well, you know? Just like telling time. We can tell when Hanukkah is coming up, when the Feast of Tabernacles is coming up, when the Passover is coming up, you know? It says, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. Now, when it says a light that decreaseth in her perfection, the moon has phases, you know? The moon has phases. So, when you have a full moon, you know, you can't help but notice that as the days go by, the moon gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, goes from this full moon to a waning gibbous, to a 3/4 half moon, to a waning crescent moon, and to a new moon. Now you can no longer see the moon, so it decreases in its light. But going back to Ecclesiastes 43 and 7, it says the month is called after her name. So now we understand this is where the word month comes from. It comes from the word moon. You know? So now you got a calendar. Now you have a calendar that's forming. You got a calendar that marks certain prophecies, that marks certain holy days, you know, certain feasts, and you have months that are created now. So now you have a calendar all revolving around the moon called the lunar calendar or the lunar cycle. It says increasing wonderfully interchanging, you know, and going back to the phase of the moon, it increases wonderfully and it's changing because the moon does change, you know. It says, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. The beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord. You know? At the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches. You know? So the Lord is the one that commanded the moon to have its cycle. You know? For it to go from a new moon all the way to a full moon and back again. Now the reason why I'm harping on the moon is because you start to understand when you read Genesis, the 2nd chapter, that the moon cycle, the Sabbath day, is governed by the moon cycle. You know, and specifically a new moon. So when a new moon comes up, that lets you know that this is the Sabbath day, because you can no longer see the moon. Now there are apps out that have the moon cycle and tell you where the moon is, you know, based on Esau's satellites that he has. So it's a lot easier for us to keep the Sabbath, you know. But as in the 7th day, there is no such thing as Saturday in the Bible. You know, it just says 7th day. And I'm going to show you later that the calendar that we go by now has nothing to do with the Most High, and that it's a man-made work. You know, it actually was Esau telling us when time is. You know, telling us what day of the week it is, so he can chronicle time the way he wants to. Because you have to remember, Esau wants to be like the Most High, and changing time is an act of God. You know, is an act of the Most High. You know, so to prove that, you know, or to prove his own pride, he created calendars to mark time by his laws, by his ways. So this is Genesis, the 2nd chapter, verse 1. It says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day, the Most High ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. Now, this is where it's going to get kind of tricky, because it says he rested on the 7th day, right? Now, we all agree that the Sabbath day is on the 7th day of the week. Now, what a lot of people don't know, because they're going by a man-made calendar and not the lunar calendar, is that the Sabbath day starts, you know, on the 7 days after the new moon, you know? So, for example, let's go back to the moon phases here. This new moon here, or the day when the moon was created, that marks a Sabbath, you know? So, for example, I'm going to use Monday for an example. Since the moon is always changing, we know that the moon is going to be in different phases on different days of the month. And all those phases are going to be different on the next month, because it always changes and it stays in the same cycle. So, for example, if you have a Monday, right? You have a Monday night. And let's say you look at the moon app and there's a new moon. So, when that sun went down and it becomes night or evening, the new moon comes up. That marks your Sabbath. So, for a whole month, you know, you're going to count 7 days 4 times. For a whole month, the Sabbath day is going to be, because you have to remember Genesis, the 1st chapter, where it says the evening and the morning were the first day. So now that you know that the evening and the morning marks one day, you know that when the sun goes down and you look in your app and you see this new moon here, that the Sabbath starts on that Monday night, going into Tuesday morning. And you count 7 days from then, you know. So you count, you know, Monday night, Tuesday night, which is 1. You can count Tuesday night to Wednesday night, which is 1. Wednesday night to Thursday night, which is 2. Thursday night to Friday night, which is 3. Friday night to Saturday night, which is 5. Saturday night to Sunday night, which is, Friday night to Saturday night, which is 4. Saturday night to Sunday night, which is 5. Sunday night to Monday night, which is 6. Now the 7th day is going to be Monday night to Tuesday night, which that's when the Sabbath started on the first place. So now you get the gist that every day for a month, the Sabbath day is going to be on that Monday night to Tuesday night. Now, there's ways to mark when, the Sabbath day is about to expire and change to into a new month. For example, you have the new moon here, which marks the beginning of a month, which also marks the beginning of the Sabbath cycle. Now, about halfway through the month, you're going to start to notice the moon is going to start changing. Because from that Monday night to Tuesday night, and from this new moon, you're going to start seeing, you know, almost about, every 2 days, you're going to start seeing the moon change. Now you can see more of the moon. In the next 2 days, you'll see a waning crescent, you know. The next 2 days, you're going to see a first quarter half moon, you know. Or, it might be a week, Slakia. Slakia, I'm sorry. Because every moon cycle is about 1.5 weeks. So you have a new moon. You're not going to see it for a week. About a week later, you have a waxing crescent moon, or about, a week and a half later, you have a waxing crescent moon, and you have a first quarter half moon. And about a week later, you have a waxing gibbous moon, and about a week and a half later, about a half later after that, you have a full moon. So this full moon here marks the middle of a month. You see how they contrast? There's a new moon here and a full moon there. So you have a new moon, which marks the beginning of a month. Then you have the full moon, which marks us being in the middle of the month. This full moon we see in the sky lets you know that there has been 2 weeks that have passed. So there are 2 Sabbaths that have passed from Monday night to Tuesday night. Now, so another 2 weeks will pass, and over the course of that 2 weeks, you'll see a waning gibbous. You'll start to see the light in the moon fade away. You'll start seeing less of the moon. You'll see a waning gibbous, then you'll see a 3/4 half moon, then you'll see a waning crescent moon, until that new moon comes back around. Now, when this new moon comes back around, on the next month, because this marks the next month as well, it's going to be on another day cycle. So, for example, the last Sabbath was on Monday night to Tuesday night. Next month, the cycle is going to start the month is going to start on a Wednesday night to Thursday night. So now you got the new moon coming in on a Wednesday night to Thursday night, and for 4 weeks, the Sabbath is going to be on a Wednesday night to a Thursday night. So now, over the course of these 2 weeks, you'll see a waxing crescent again, the first quarter half moon, and the waxing gibbous moon. And when you hit that 2-week mark, you'll see that full moon. In those 2 weeks, the Sabbath is still Wednesday night to Thursday night. So after that second week marker, the full moon, you'll start to see it decreasing in her changing now, decreasing in her light. So you'll start to see the waning gibbous and the 3/4 and a waning crescent. Then you get back to a new moon, and you'll notice that the new moon is coming in on the next day cycle, which is going to be Friday night to Saturday night. So now you got the new moon that comes in on Friday night to Saturday night. Now, at that instant, the new moon will be on Friday, Saturday, but it always changes by the month. Every month, the next day is going to be another new moon. It's going to be another Sabbath, So going back to Genesis 2:1, it says, Genesis 2:3, and the Most High blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which the Most High had created. Now, you're reading it, you're saying, okay, 7 days from what? What marks the first day? Well, I just explained to you that the first day is marked by this new moon. This is the first day, And 7 days after that, on that same day when the new moon came in, that will be the Sabbath, So like I just explained, if it comes in on a Monday night, then the Sabbath for 4 weeks is going to be Monday night to Tuesday night. And the next month will be Wednesday night to Thursday night. And the next month will be Friday night to Saturday night. And the next month will be Sunday night to Monday night. And the next month will be Tuesday night to Wednesday night. And it goes in a revolving circle just like that. There's order. So this is Sirach chapter 33, verse 7, it says, "Why doth one day excel another, when as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun?" Which is correct. But the Lord hallowed certain days, just like he hallowed, or he made special, the Sabbath day in Genesis the second chapter. It says, "By the knowledge of the Lord they were distinguished." See? He made a separation between days, man. The Sabbath isn't just a regular day like the rest of the seven, or the rest of the other six. And he altered seasons and feasts, So he made the seasons by the equinoxes, by the signs. And feast days, like the Passover, the Day of Atonement, the Feast of Tabernacles, Hanukkah. And those are all feast days that are governed by the moon as well, because a true calendar cycle is supposed to be by the moon, you know. So by the moon we know when those high holy days come in. It says, "Some of them hath he made high days and hallowed them," like I said, such as the Passover, such as Hanukkah, and some of them hath he made ordinary days, like the rest of the days throughout the week, you know. But the thing about it is, Esau wanted to mark when his holy days were, or when a month started, or when a day started, So he created this whole false sense of time, centered around how he would like to run the world. So I'm going to read you a prophecy that actually came to pass, after the book of Daniel, man, because the book of Daniel was in the Medo-Persian Empire. So, and Esau didn't start changing calendars until he got into power after Alexander the Great, So after Alexander the Great, and you had the first Caesar of Rome, which was Julius Caesar, he created something called the Julian calendar. He named the calendar after himself, and he took himself as a god because he actually made himself think that he created time, which time was all has always been around, marked by the moon, and about 2,000 years later, you have Pope Gregory the 13th, which created another calendar, which is the calendar we go by today, which is called the Gregorian calendar. So this is Daniel, the 7th chapter, verse 18. It says, wrong scripture, verse 25. It says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High." And those great words are performing these so-called miracles, saying that we have a sense of time that we follow that's different from the Most High's, saying that we don't have to follow the law, and worship the Sabbath on the day that's supposed to, governing by the moon. That's speaking great words against the Most High, changing the world, as the Most High has put it. "And shall wear out the saints of the Most High." Now, wearing out the saints of the Most High means that, of course, wearing means to be tired, but the way he's going to tire us out is by making us go off, making us not, not loyal in the eyes of the Lord, man, teaching us to go off on the law, statutes, commandments, man. "And think to change times and laws." Now, this is the main point. It says, "and thinks to change times and laws." Now, like I said earlier, he did change the times and the laws, He changed the law in the scriptures that says that homosexuals will be put to death. Now he says that homosexuals have rights, And he changed the times multiple times. There have been multiple calendars throughout the history of mankind that Esau has created. But the two most famous calendars are the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar, The Julian calendar because of it being created by Julius Caesar, but the Gregorian calendar because that's the sense of time or the order of time that the world goes by today. So let me read this excerpt from Wikipedia really quick. This is the Gregorian calendar. It says the Gregorian calendar is internationally the most widely used civil calendar. And this is to date. So this is the calendar that we are using today. It is named after Pope Gregory the 13th, who introduced it in October 1582. It was a refinement to the Julian calendar, which I just mentioned, involving an approximately 0.02% correction in the length of the calendar year. So they've extended the calendar year, Now, since 1582, The year has been extended. That's why you get things like leap years. That's why in February you got an extra 2 days every couple of years. Which this is another conversation, another topic. But this is Esau trying to extend his judgment. Trying to make his trying to draw out his judgment as long as he can while he's still on the earth. But it says the motivation of the reform was to stop the drift of the calendar with respect to the equinoxes and solstices, which these equinoxes and solstices mark the seasons, you know, particularly the northern vernal equinox, which helps set the date for Easter. Now, we all know that Easter is incorrect. The word is Pesach or Passover. So they use the Passover to create this so-called calendar. They use the Passover because the Passover marks the beginning of spring. You know, it marks a new month, and it also marks the beginning of spring, and it marks the beginning of a new year. You know, the new year is actually supposed to be in the spring when things come alive, not in the dead of winter when things are dead. You know, so transition to the Gregorian calendar would restore the holiday to the time of year in which it was celebrated when introduced by the early church. Now, so he did this all in the name of Christianity. Christianity said it to be this day, so he set the whole world back or set them ahead, depending on, give or take. But he set the whole world in his order to worship um, their version of the Most High on the Passover, which they call Easter. The reform was adopted initially by the Catholic countries of Europe, of course, because the Pope at that time had control and was damn near recognized as the king of Europe. So they had no choice. Protestants and Eastern Orthodox countries continued to use the traditional Julian calendar and adopted the Gregorian reform, one by one after a time, at least for civil purposes and for the sake of convenience in international trade. See, now they modeled international trade after this calendar. Well, we're going to ship this out on this date, and it should be there by this date. you know. So they created a whole model of time and forced the whole world to adopt it. You know, first they first what they did was they created the calendar and created it and revolved it around Christianity or Roman Catholicism, which is the same thing. And next, they went after the trade routes, and started telling the world that this is how you have to mark time because this is the only way, or the only way you have to keep track of when your goods are being exported out of the country or imported into the country. And everyone naturally had to conform because I can't be missing money, you know. I can't be missing economics. I can't miss a shipment of fish or a shipment of gold or a shipment of silver or a shipment of diamonds. It becomes expensive then. So, of course, the world had to conform. The last European country to adopt the reform was Greece in 1923. Many, but not all, countries that have traditionally used a Julian calendar, or the Islamic, or the other religious calendars, which, going back to Islamic, they actually use a lunar calendar. But it says, or other religious calendars have come to adopt the Gregorian calendar for civil purposes, meaning living. So now the whole uh, the whole basis of living revolves around this calendar. Now that is why we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Which, by the way, all those days were created. If any of you brothers want to look up the Julian calendar, but when you look up the Julian calendar, all those days were created and named after Roman gods. So not only are there these marking the days of the week, but now they inadvertently have you worshiping Roman deities. This is another reason why the Lord set the moon. But you have men throughout time that started worshiping the sun and the moon as well, because they keep track of time. But that's the truth behind the Sabbath day. Is that the moon and the moon governs time. The moon governs the Sabbath. It governs when the seasons come in. Signs of prophecies are going to come to pass. Happen by the signs of the moon. You have a sign for the days, the months, the years, and for the seasons. you know. So with that, I just wanted to, go into the Sabbath day a little bit and edify brothers on, what the Sabbath day is and what it began as, and as Israelites coming and conforming and being converted back to the ways of Yahweh Shem Shai, we have to learn how to keep the Sabbath day properly and learn to know when it comes in and when it doesn't come in, And that's something that's very important as men that are just, entering into the truth, because it's one of the main questions. So with that, I want to give all praises, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakat Kodash, double honor to the apostle and elders, great millstone rule well, and salutations to the brethren on the four corners of the earth, pushing the word and truth and in sincerity. Shalom.